I appreciate that. How does a person in your field negotiate salary or the value of their services in this career choice? So it's more a question of negotiation. And the reason this question came up, I remember working at a specific nonprofit, and a person in a leadership position was like, just being honest. She was just communicating that not an African American young lady of a different background. And she was just like, hey, the African Americans, a lot of times they don't negotiate their salary. They don't
Yeah,
negotiate year to year.
yeah,
Whereas,
yeah,
this other, just speaking, the Caucasians that work, like they always negotiate. It's a normal part of the culture. And so one of the reasons why I think it's very important is whatever your tribe, whatever your background, to talk about negotiation as a professional.
yeah. So what I'll do is I won't talk necessarily about the nonprofit in terms of negotiation because it's not like somebody pays me a check. It's like
Sure.
I create my own salary based off of what the industry trends are. And I say, okay, if I want to be paid this much money, I have to essentially have this much revenue coming in to pay myself this. But I'll talk about it more so on like having a leadership or motivational speaking business. And I'll give you an example. This is why I talk about getting your head right, because I grew up very insecure. And when you have a gift, sometimes because you do something so freely, easily, you'll give it away freely. And I remember when my first time getting paid to do spoken word, I got paid like $75. And I was excited. Like, yo, I got paid $75 to do a 3-minute poem. Yo, that's amazing. I made $75 in 3 minutes. But that's not true. Because one of the things I remember happening was I went to a conference. Well, the first thing was I didn't know what was my industry average for what I did. That's the first thing people need to know. What is the industry average for what you do? So at that time, as a poet, and I was trying to get into the poetry market as a speaker poet, I went to a conference. At this time, I think I was charging like $250 to do a poem. I went to a conference, Zach, and this is not to toot my own horn, but I know when I get on the stage, I can kill a poem. I can kill it. I can kill it. Didn't know the business.
Yeah.
Didn't know the business.
And I would affirm that. I would affirm that for sure.
Appreciate it. But I didn't know the business.
Yeah.
I got in this conference. The minimum, regardless of skill level, the poets were charging. If you wanted to book that poet, the minimum was $1,500.
Wow.
It doesn't matter if the performance was 5 minutes or 3 minutes. If you're going to bring that poet to your campus, the minimum you're going to pay is $1,500. Now I'm charging $250. So I had to understand what was the industry average. And what that did for me was, honestly, if I can be real with you, because, I was very insecure. So I was like, yo, who's going to pay $500 to hear me speak? I'm just a Black boy who's doing this hip hop poetry stuff. But then once I got the confidence up, like, yo, you want to give me $75 to do what? Drive across town and come to your event? But then one of the things I had to look at is, number one, the industry average, and then you have to calculate your time. So if I did, let's say, for example, a keynote for 45 minutes, which included original content, and I wrapped in there an original poem that I'm doing for your entity or your organization. It's not just 45 minutes. It's my time that it takes me to travel there. It's the time that it takes me to gather the data to know exactly what you want so I can write the piece, write the keynote, rehearse it, make sure that it's all up in here so that when I show up to your venue, I'm coming across as flawless. So when you calculate all that, I may spend maybe 20, 25, depending on the venue, depending on how complex, 30 hours. So imagine if I'm getting paid $250, if you break that up, you're really only making what, $10 an hour or something. So you have to think like that. And then if you have a job, like a lot of people do, depending on what you want to do, and you're taking off of work, let's say you make $40,000 a year, which is, about $3,000 a month before taxes, you may make about $100 a day. So you may take off of work maybe 3 days, you done lost $300, but you got paid $250. So you losing money. So you got to calculate all that other kind of stuff. So industry average, calculate how much time you invested. And the main thing is know what's your industry average for whatever it is that you do.